Anyway, this is for the variance of the area of the accessory structure. I think this is the last lot in that subdivision to want to build a pole barn, so hopefully,
They're all full now? Just the last one?
all, just about, yeah, I think every lot has a variance now, except for maybe one, so.
Including you, huh?
But I did submit, yes, that's correct. I did submit, he sent a sketch of what the barn will look like and a plan showing where it's gonna be located. We haven't had any inquiries about the variance, either way. So they're here tonight. Speak to them or have questions. They're in the audience and more than welcome to speak.
Do you have any questions for them?
I don't, it's straightforward. Yeah.
Would you like to offer anything? What? If you'd
Yeah,
come
you need
forward
to
and
come up.
state your name,
Yeah.
please. Thank you.
Hearing me today, Todd Davis, will live at 1040 Judith Lane, building a home on the property now. It's a couple months away from completion, and would like to put a pole building on the property as well. 36 by 40 is what I'm looking at, which is bigger than the allowable without a variance, so that's what I'm looking for.
Okay, thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you.
At this time, I'll open it to the public for anybody that wants to speak on the case tonight. Close the public part of the meeting.
Make a motion. I move that we approve the variance sought by Todd Davis, petitioner in BZA petition 20-31, to allow an accessory structure to an increased area of 1,440 square feet. This petition has satisfied the requirements for variance under state law for the following reasons. One, the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community for the reasons stated in the petitioner's proposed finding of fact. Two, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner for reasons stated in the petitioner's proposed findings of fact. Three, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property for the reasons stated in the petitioner's proposed findings of fact, and I move that this be made with no conditions.
At this time, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Gary, if you would, please.
Roll call vote. Dr. Swords?
Aye.
Kevin Cussy?
Aye.
Thompson?
Aye.
Page?
Aye.
Vote aye, motion carries 5-0.
It is therefore the decision of this body that this variance petition is approved. Mr. Davis?
Next item on the agenda is property at 925 East Main. It's the Hendricks County Jail. They're proposing a new facility. And there are like 4 variances that they are listing. I have included all of the information in the packet. We have not had any inquiries. Mr. Kavanaugh's in the audience. Have questions? Kevin? Okay. You want to come on up and speak into the microphone, state your name, please.
Thanks for joining us today. My name's Caleb Rothenberger. I'm with RQAW. I don't know, are they aware of all the variances, or do you want me to go through them?
They've given all the information. You might want to just go through each one just briefly, listing, and have any questions. Those.
Did you say 4 or 3?
I think there's only 3.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
The first variance is for a reduction in the perimeter landscaping for the parking lot, specifically the north lot of the site plan. Our request here is that this is a staff lot that'll be enclosed. It's also over 1,000 feet from Main Street and Campus Road, Campus Boulevard. So Along with maintenance and security reasons, we want to forego the perimeter screening on that lot. In addition to that, we'll also be providing an evergreen tree screening on the north side to help with any sort of visual sight that might be had from Main Street.
Will that screening be on a mound type system, or will it be straight above?
There'll be trees.
I mean,
It'll be
trees,
full evergreen trees.
all right, but they won't be on a mound.
No.
Okay, thank you.
The second variance is for the interior parking lot.
One
tree-
question before you go to the second one. You're saying the north parking lot.
Yes.
This doesn't have a north, yeah, it does too. So you're talking about this parking lot up here?
No, there should be two sheets.
Yeah, there are. This didn't scan very well.
It matches the dotted line on the other sheet.
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah, 102.
Yes. So north is to your left on the screen.
I'm with you now.
There you go. There you go.
North is always up.
Yes.
Probably would have been helpful if you had an aerial or something. I don't know if you have access. An aerial.
Probably one in the packet, but it's not gonna be probably, well, it might. Go on down to the next one.
Bit north. This one just has a.
It didn't scan very well. But yeah, you can tell where the buildings are, right.
So that building there to the left, that's the old,
4-H.
4-H building.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. There you go.
Yeah, that helps.
How many acres is that? Land right there.
This here?
Yeah, that area there.
No, that it's listed here.
Question, I'm Kevin Cavanaugh, Facilities Manager, Port of Henderson County Government, offices at 355 South Washington Street. Land's about 14 acres.
Eventually, the front part will be parcel off.
No, sir, that front parcel immediately to the north of our site is the armory. Realize that their property line really goes very far to the west, very close to the old drive to the old. Is the armory. Really just have the old entry drive, and what we refer to the remainder of the site.
If you look on your aerial that's in your packet, you can kind of tell where the yellow line, how close that does come to the, it's now the Parks and Recreation Building.
Yeah. Is there aren't they building a road by the
Yes.
substation? And that's gonna come around, isn't
And
it?
it will eventually
Connect with, okay.
Past
Substation
tense,
road
it's
is
built.
Actually, part of the substation project, and that was done in agreement with the county commissioners as a sale of that property. Wabash Valley Power is responsible to complete that part of the roadway. They're almost done. Another part of our overall project is continuation of the East Campus Boulevard, where it dead ends by the animal control facility on up to match up and meet with the new road extension by the sub.
That's what I'd heard, so
That's part of our plan. That's technically for us, it's a separate project from the jail project.
So in that letter that I put in your packet, I made a comment about, if you look at that landscape plan, you can see that the trees don't go all the way over to the edge. So they have a tree at the corner there, but I was just thinking since, and I know you don't own that property, but since it'll be viewable, maybe you just make that a continuous row of trees. That was just something that I put in the. Yes.
Property line
Okay.
held back from that corner to avoid that utility line. So wouldn't be able to extend that screening, but there are additional existing evergreen trees out here that would also help limit that line of sight.
County's property.
That one in the offset, is that just a shrub? The white one,
This
right
one?
there.
No, that is also a tree. It's not an evergreen tree, it's just a shade tree. So these would be evergreen, shade tree,
You
evergreen,
could
shade.
put another evergreen in right there.
Well, that's why we start to encroach on that overhead line.
Was it coming across there at an angle?
Yeah, you
Oh,
want
I
to.
see it now.
Yeah. So we don't want that,
No.
when it grows to maturity, getting into the line.
Where is the armory at in relation to the map?
Um,
Okay,
So
and
that parking lot is back here.
how far removed from the armory is the parking lot?
I don't have that dimension. I can supply that if you need.
This aerial, you can kind of see where the corner of the armories, the corner of their boundary, it actually goes right up next to the stone driveway. It goes into there, and I believe, on this landscape plan, is this indicative of the property boundary? Is that what this line is? So you can kind of tell this is the property line. So their parking lot's pretty close
Yeah.
to that property line.
Okay.
And I've heard that the old jail is going to be torn down. Is that true?
Yeah. My recommendation for my position, but has not been up yet. Did we answer your question about the location of the armory?
Yeah, I think so.
Want me to move on to the other variances, or? Okay. The second variance we're requesting is for the interior parking lot tree requirement, to be able to allow for that required quantity to be distributed throughout the site. Again, due to security risks, we don't want to have any trees up against the building. So trying to locate all those interior trees in a limited space, it starts to overcrowd those tree canopies. So to allow for those trees to have a healthy growing space, we want to redistribute them throughout the entire property instead of trying to cram them in away from the building. So we're still supplying the required number, just not interior to the parking lot. We're providing as many trees as we can in the interior without it causing a maintenance issue. you have any questions?
I'm good with that.
The third request is for the foundation planting. The CPOD requires that foundation planting be provided along the frontage of all the roads. Since we have Campus Road that extends around 3 sides of Main Street to the north as well, technically, by the code, it would call for foundation planting around the entire building. We are providing foundation planting along this edge, the west and the south edge for a portion, but then not along the east side. That area is planned for future expansion of the jail. And then we're asking for a request for the north side as well to be excluded. So at the moment, we're providing foundation planting along the west and south edge. You can scroll back up to that of the plan. The previous one. We're showing foundation planting along this portion that fronts Campus Road, which we feel is the most exposed face of this building, more of a prominent entrance. We're also providing an upgraded landscape feature and planting along Campus Road as well. And here we're still providing what would be required as the minimum foundation planting. We're just allocating it throughout this area.
West side, it was pointing to, really like the public building, that's the public. Boulevard, asking for the half only parking. Sheriff's side, which is eventually that could be a further expansion of the jail facility. There will be an outside holding area there. It is not really visible from the side of anything. Try to offset those two areas to the other publicly visible.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I'm open up to the public for anybody that wants to speak on any of the 3 variances or anything like that.
Got sworn in and I came up here. I just want to feel like I'm not left out. My name's Brett Clark. I'm your elected sheriff, and I live just outside of the town in Center Township on 400 East. You guys know me, and we've been at this jail site since 1973. Since I took office in 2015, I've done everything that Laura at the time and Gary and everybody asked us. We redid our sign. I hand put in those yellow flowers and that ball-shaped blue spruce myself with my son. And I think we've been good neighbors. And I've got a lot invested in all this. My whole career and life has been with this agency. And I wanted to assure you that this is going to be something you can be proud of. It's going to look really nice. We're taking a lot of pain and time to make sure that we give you something to be proud of that will fit in, that ties in with the history of even the building that's on the picture on the wall, as well as the county home out there next to us. I wish I could have brought those big posters there in my office. I would have shown you, but it really wasn't germane to the conversation about trees and things. But we're going to make the property nice, and it's going to be really a functional, good neighbor. So that's my 2 cents. I just wanted to tell you that and assure you that my name's going to be on it. It's going to be good.
What's the time frame?
Our hope is that we can break ground around before Labor Day-ish. The COVID has obviously put us back a little bit, but the commissioners are committed to doing it because it's been on the burner for a lot of years, as Gary could tell you. It's something that's needed in the county because of the growth. I just don't have too many more tricks up my sleeve, and we have great partnerships with our local PDs and our prosecutor and our courts, but there's just not much else we can do to keep our numbers down. Before the COVID, I was pushing 280 to 265 a day. We have 252 beds. Thankfully now we're down to about 185 today. But that's only because of the restrictions and everybody's working so closely together and not doing the heavy enforcement that we had done before. But I fully anticipate it'll jump right back up. And hopefully, you'll say, well, why are you going to put that many beds in? Because we're building for 20 to 40 years down the road, not for now. So we won't have to come back in front of you for a long time. This one's made it almost 50. but it's really getting time. I don't know that there's much else we can do to improve upon the site that we have now as far as the building goes.
What's the capacity?
The capacity of the new, I think it's going to be 574 beds, up from 252 now. And again, if we build a jail with 300 beds and we filled it the first day we moved in, we would be failing you guys, really, and all of our citizens. So ideally, we will have some empty beds in the beginning, but that is by design. I know some people say, well, why in the world would you want to build almost 600 beds when you have 250 people in there now? It's because of growth, and I'm not going to let the judges do it to us. We're not going to build it and then they come kind of a thing. If we stay disciplined and we stay on top of the issues that we have all done because we've had to up to this point with our growth, we can be just like Hamilton County. They have about 600 beds and they have double the population of Hendricks because they manage their systems very well. And I think if we have a model as far as counties go, I think we're try to be the best, but certainly we learn a lot from the bigger ones like that.
So you're gonna get this built for your term's up?
That is my goal. I have about 2.5 years to go and I'm term limited out. I don't really agree with that,
Get
but it is what it
started on
is.
this year while you might be.
18 to 24 months, I think, is our timeline of what we're looking at if we don't have any, Indian burial grounds or anything out there and our mitigation with the water and everything else that the guys are working on for us. I think we're going to be on schedule. If we don't, if I get to move in one day, I'll be happy. It doesn't have to be me that runs it, but I really would like to leave it to the next generation of folks to carry on the future. So thanks for letting me come up and speak.
Question?
Back in 76, drinking a cup of coffee with Hank Carmichael.
That was probably a pretty fancy jail he had that day, wasn't it?
It was.
Anyway, thank you all, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, appreciate it. I'm gonna close it to the public part of the meeting and entertain a motion individually for each one of these.
I'll make the first one here. I move that we approve the variance sought by Kavanaugh on behalf of Hendricks County Commissioners. Petitioner in BZA petition number 20-33 to eliminate parking lot perimeter screening for the rear staff parking lot in the OB district and CPOD district. This petition has satisfied requirements for variances under state law for the following reasons. The approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. B, for reasons stated in the petitioner's proposed findings of fact. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. B, for the reasons stated in the petitioner's proposed findings of fact. The strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. B, for reasons stated in the petitioner's proposed finding of fact. I move that this approval be made subject to the following conditions. I have no conditions.
This time we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
Gary, if you would, please.
Roll call vote. Dr. Swords?
Aye.
Mr. Tussey?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. Sheets?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 5-0.
It is therefore the decision of this body that this variance petition is approved subject to the conditions of. Next, to move on to petition 20-34.
I can take it. I'll make a motion. I move that we approve the variance sought by Kevin Kavanaugh on behalf of the Hendricks County Commissioners. Petition in BZA petition 20-34 to allow for the distribution of the interior parking lot tree requirements in the OB district and CPOD district. This petition has satisfied the requirements for variances stated under state law for the following reasons. The approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. B, for the reasons stated in petitioner's proposed findings of fact. 2, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be in a substantially adverse manner. B, for the reasons stated in petitioner's proposed findings of fact. 3, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. B, for the reasons stated in petitioner's proposed findings of fact. And I move that this approval be made subject to the following conditions, no stated conditions.
This time we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those, we have a second. Gary, if you would, please.
On a roll call vote, Dr. Swords?
Aye.
Mr. Duffy?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Sheets?
Aye.
I vote aye, motion carries 5-0.
It is therefore the decision of this body that this variance is approved, subject to the conditions. We'll move on to motion for petition number 20-35.
Motion. I move that we approve the variance sought by Kevin Kavanaugh on behalf of Hendricks County Commissioners, petitioner in BZA petition number 20-35, to allow for no foundation planning requirement on the east and north portion of the building in the OB district and CPOD district. This petition has satisfied the requirements for variances under state law for the following reasons. One, the approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community for the reasons stated in petitioner's proposed findings of fact. Two, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner for reasons stated in petitioner's proposed findings of fact. Three, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the properties for reasons stated in the petitioner's proposed findings of fact, and I move that this approval be made with no conditions.
And we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Gary, if you would, please.
Vote, Dr. Swords?
Aye.
Mr. Duffy?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Sheets?
Aye.
Vote aye, motion carries 5-0.
It is therefore the decision of this body that this variance petition is. Thank you very much.
That's super helpful.
Thank you. Yeah. All right.
Next item is public hearing for forbearance request.
Okay, this property is located also known as the old Danner's parking lot. The applicant is proposing 4 variances. See here, perimeter landscaping, screening, minimum required parking spaces, 60% glazing on the street-facing facades, and to allow no offsets or projections for all requirements of the corridor protection overlay district. I think that they've done a pretty good job of, making the building look nice, and Rick Batter's here. I'd like to come up and present. There haven't been any objections on this application. Has been approved with a favorable. Still waiting one thing right now. Applicant is wanting some of the facade materials, and discuss that with the designer. We're in the process of getting approval on it.
My name is Rick Battershell. I'm an architect with Curry and Associates from right here in Danville. Lisa and her staff have done a great job providing a summary. I'm not going to belabor the fact and reread all this stuff. If you have any questions at all, please hit the highlights, I guess. The first variance is a variance to allow less than the required parking lot perimeter landscape screening. That would be primarily on the north side where there's an alley between us and Mr. Bourne. Let's see, development standard variance to allow less than the minimum required parking places. We have 19 spaces plus 1 handicapped. And correct me if I'm wrong, for the fast track therapy, that was plenty.
I think you're over like one spot, one parking space.
Half of the building, or Lisa's the other half of the building, then we won't be in compliance. So I don't know how you want to treat that.
If, for instance, he would lease the rest of the building to a professional office or personal service, he would likely not need this at all. But if he leases it to a restaurant, thing that requires the parking spaces, seats, then need this variance. At this point, we don't know what that number will be, if it will need to be. So I suggested possibly, if they come in required to have 30 and they only have 19 percentage over.
I know that Mr. Horner has talked to the church next to it, and he's talked about getting permission from the church to allow Mr. Horner's staff to park back on the corner, their lot that's back there off Clinton Street.
Yeah, the redevelopment commission.
Yeah. So,
I think that Hometown Insurance had 2 spaces too.
Actually, the redevelopment commission did approach Hometown, and they couldn't come to terms possibly sharing any parking. They are, redevelopment commission is right now currently conversations, and they're close to signing something to where they can share parking. And one of the other points that the applicant has made is their business is going to be daytime through the week. If a restaurant or some user would come in there, they will likely need evenings, weekends, that's where they're going to be have the biggest crowd. So they're still going to have that whole parking lot. Plus, possibly the church.
Will we still have parking on Main Street
Yes, yes.
Jefferson
and along
Street.
Jefferson Street?
We're gonna lose a space or two, Gary, on Jefferson Street when we do the curb cut.
Well,
The variance is just for the off-street parking requirement.
Are you thinking rather than give them carte blanche, whatever, hold them to a certain percentage? Like 10%?
I would just, yes, I would throw that out there as a thought. I don't know what that does. If they would come in with a user and they would exceed by more than a certain percentage, then come back to the Board of Zoning Appeals. I mean, that was, maybe, I don't know what that percentage, what would
Lisa, is the town looking at extending the angle parking on down to Clinton,
we have talked about doing that, yes.
which would add a few?
Yes. Had a few, we also talked a little bit about doing it on the side of the street in front of you. I don't know how much area we have yet. That's just the conversations that we're having right now. Also on Jefferson Street, north of Clinton, it jets out more than what it does when you get up closer. So we had thought about the town could possibly take that little strip out, and I don't know if you can see it on the aerial, then that could possibly turn into additional parking. So I think the point is that the town is, or the redevelopment commission is working with the town to get as much parking, realizing that it's an issue.
So, on the parking one, we could put in there as a condition that if business is leased, the rest of the building that would require additional parking, they would have to come to us and show us how they're going to get.
That makes perfectly good sense.
I mean,
Sure, I can't speak, for the owner, but those are things that we've talked about.
And if they have, through the redevelopment commission, have that worked out, then all they have to do
That's
is
all the
present us
better.
with that, and
True.
That has to be part
so
of the
you
motion.
wouldn't be asking then for them to come back for a variance?
pardon?
Are you saying that you would just want them to come back just to show you what they're doing, because they're
To
asking
show
for a
us how they're going to
variance.
come up with that additional parking.
Okay.
How does it work with, like, if you have the office in here now, let's say they do put a restaurant in, do you combine the two parking requirements and then look at?
How many square feet is a potential restaurant?
It's about,
No, it's about half. Yeah, so 5,000, 5,500. It's two levels, 2 stories, so,
Fast Track going to have 2 levels too?
yes, yeah.
Are they going to be on the east side?
They're going to be on the east, yes. Their space will face Mayberry, the
Yeah.
parking lot, and Main.
What are the parking requirements for a place like Fast Track, just on its own?
One,
per, 1 per 300. I think it's gross floor area or something like that. I can't
20
remember the
parking
exact
places
term.
would be 6,000. That's the total square footage of the building.
no, it's more than that, Mr. Thompson, because it's 2 levels. We're,
We only calculate it based on the
Footprint,
square foot,
oh, really?
What are the required parking spots just for Fast Track then? Somebody can do some quick math.
pardon me, I think 19 or 20.
Yeah, I think they have 20, I think. I don't remember off the top of my
19
head.
and 1.
And they have 19.
And 1, yeah, we have to have,
Yeah.
They're providing 20.
So it seems, I mean, pretty much anything that could go in there is gonna push
to
them
have a
over.
variance.
Well, but that's based on the entire square footage of
Yeah.
the, okay?
Oh,
So
okay.
if a similar use comes in that's only required to have, if it's required to have the same amount, 1 per
20
300,
spots.
they're gonna comply. Yeah, because I used it,
and see, or any type of,
most of those uses are 1 space per 300.
Okay. Something like a restaurant would be,
A restaurant would go by seating capacity, so I should have brought my order based on each seat in the restaurant. And then you have to have a parking space per employee, largest shift and stuff like that. So it gets into a little bit more detail. You know, whenever you think about it, we have a restaurant on the other side of the square. Doesn't really have, I guess it does in the back, some in the back. So,
same way with Mayberry. And, well, Diesel's had at the time.
that is the requirement, so,
yeah, I was gonna say,
street,
I mean, to me, in my mind, there's pretty ample off-street parking,
Particularly
you know,
in the
somewhere
evening.
around the square.
right.
People could walk more instead of just walking 20 feet.
All the parking lot behind the heat and pool and area, that's open.
Yeah, and across the street.
What's the restriction on the
I don't,
or who owns, I don't know.
well, I think the town went in with somebody and did that, didn't they?
You're talking about the Unitarian Church?
Yeah,
No, across the
on the
street,
south side of
behind the old
36.
town hall.
Yeah, behind the, oh, who owns this?
County? County owns those.
Parking is restricted.
oh, I know, you're,
Yeah,
okay,
I didn't know how that fit
Yeah.
into the whole
county
scheme
owns
of-
that, but,
I
Hey,
think
they're restricted,
restricted during
Kevin.
the day, but not in the evening.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Must be weekends either, because I park there to go to the farmer's
yeah,
market
it's
all the
used in,
time.
yeah. People
That's
use
the
it,
best place to park.
right. And but they wanted to request the variance. Really, you don't need it based on your use, but I'm sure you'll probably, in order to comply with that section of the ordinance. Variance. So I really couldn't put a number on it.
The last 2 variances that the Horners are requesting two that are very similar. The first one is we don't have 60% glazing on the street-facing facades. This building, it's two-story, and all the windows are the punch-type windows, you know, individual, and you can see on the elevations that we've got here, it looks like the buildings around the square do now, with, you know, the second story, the punched windows. There's 50 windows in this place, but we still didn't have enough area on the street level side to meet the 60%. This is a physical therapy place. He wanted to keep those windows to a minimum, if you will, because there's people in there working out and what have you, and he's given massages and stuff like that. And then the last is, there's no offsets like the ordinances require. I think every 750 square feet of frontage there, you're supposed to have a 2.5-foot offset. We didn't do that because the site is so tight. But we do change up the materials. There's brick at the bottom. What's that little thing? Yeah, this, over here on the corner, come on. There's stone on the corner, brick across the bottom, and some type of board and batten siding there. That's what we're having discussions with Scott. And that's the back, if you will, the north side. This will be the street side. Each one of these little windows here are sized so we can pop those out and put in an entry door there. Should, you know, he get lease to somebody who wants a window or a door on Main Street side. We also, down at this end, cut the corner, just like the old Danner store. And I pulled out a photograph from 1910, and the building that was on this site also had the corner clipped there. So that's a little before my time, but no.
Say Scott, you talking about Scott Perkins?
Pardon me?
Talking about Scott Perkins? Scott?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm sorry, Gary. Mr. Perkins. So these last two variances kind of go together. The glazing on the bottom there, and then the offset. You can see, basically this is in the same plane, just like all the other buildings in and around the square, so.
That end of the building, Rick, is going to be where the alleyway is. It's gonna go
This
all the
is
way
the alley, and the church is right here.
there. Okay.
So, and we'll be able to access the parking lot on the north side through the alley.
These north and south elevations, do you have the east-west?
I don't know if they're on there or not.
The packet.
Okay, all right.
Let's see.
There'd be windows on each end of that.
There's a few windows on the west facing the church. There's a bunch of windows on the east facing Payberry. This site is real deceptive. You can see by the time we get around to the northeast corner, we're down about 3.5, 4 feet. So we're going to have some steps. It'll be similar to two guys. We had to do the same thing. You know, when the old gas station was there, it looked like a flat site, but really steps down pretty good. Then there'll be steps at the clip entrance too.
When do they feel like they'll be finished?
Pardon me, Tom?
When do you think they'll be finished building?
Well, if all goes well, we're going to get started pretty quick. Yeah. One thing we have, when Ray's tore down the old building, dumped sand in, and they didn't compact it. So we've got to dig out 60 by 120 by 9 feet of soil, and then bring it back up, compact it in 8 to 12-inch lifts. Take a while, and that's going to take some good, dry weather. Big bathtub down there.
I think it's great that lot's been used.
Oh, I do too.
It's going to really.
Nobody sits at the picnic tables, at least I haven't seen.
I don't think I have it. Okay. That's the end. There you go.
You bring that down here. No, it's fine. No, it's okay. That's west, and then that'll be east. So the base is brick, and the top is going to be kind of a cement.
I was curious when I saw you had 4 of these. They're numbered 36, 38, 39, 40. What happened to 37?
It got assigned to somebody.
Oh, really?
else. Well,
Somebody snuck in there.
they actually came in at one of the applications, or 2 of them, 39 and 40 came in. So I had already assigned 38
37.
to 7.
Just one of those things. I noticed those little.
You do.
No, you can count them.
I just proved that I read this stuff.
You're just very, very observant.
You've got a curious mind.
Thank you very much. This time open to public, and I left, unless Greg wants to talk. You're good, and everything. So I'll close the public part of the meeting and open up. To do 20-36.
Or do you want to?
Oh, I was gonna say on the on the parking request for off-street parking ratio, what was the consensus on that one? A percentage?
I think a percentage might go,
50%?
yeah. I mean, if they.
That would put 30 spots, right?
Right.
As a condition?
They would get above that.
Oh, if something went in there that would require more than 50% parking, they'd need a variance. Oh, okay.
How do we put that in motion?
With the
Cody, you can
condition
take it.
that. parking-
I don't want to take
Since you started.
Would that put it in a situation where the majority of stuff's going to be okay
I
there?
think so,
Okay,
yeah. Because I believe it will.
okay. That's all for me.
So I'll entertain a motion for petition 20-36.
I move that we approve variance sought by Brian and Amy Horner, petitioner in BZA petition number 20-36, to eliminate parking lot perimeter screening on the north side of the parking lot. in the CBP district and CPOD district. This petition has satisfied the requirements for variances under state law for the following reasons. The approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. B, for reasons stated in the petitioner's proposed finding of fact. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Reason B, for the reasons stated in the petitioner's proposed finding of fact. Strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. B, for the reasons stated in the petitioner's proposed findings of fact. I move that this approval be made subject to the following conditions, and no condition.
And we have a motion
Second. Oh,
to, Gary, if you would please.
Roll call vote. Dr. Swords?
Aye.
Mr. Tressi?
Aye.
Aye. Sheets? I vote aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Is there for the decision of this body that this variance petition?
Gary, I think. It was close.
I'd had Cody down.
Okay, now we'll
Must be that
entertain a motion
mask.
for petition.
I'll make a motion. I move that we approve the variance sought by Brian and Amy Horner, petitioner in BZA petition number 20-38 for a reduction in the required off-street parking ratio requirement in the CBP district and CPOD district. This petition has satisfied the requirements for variances under state law for the following reasons. The approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. B, for the reasons stated in petitioner's proposed findings of fact. 2, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. B, for the reasons stated in petitioner's proposed findings of fact. 3, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. B, for the reasons stated in petitioner's proposed findings of fact. And I move that this approval be made subject to the following conditions. If the additional use, off-street parking ratio requirements exceed the 20 spots by 50%, a additional variance must be requested.
This time we have a motion.
A second.
Roll call vote. Dr. Swords?
Aye.
Mr. Tressi?
Aye.
Thompson? Aye. Sheets?
Aye.
Vote aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Is there for the decision? Variance petition, subject to the condition. Is that
50%.
50%?
Maybe one for
I
Lisa.
wrote down, if the additional parking ratio requirement exceeds the 20 spots by 50%, variance will be required. Another variance.
I had leasing to other businesses that require 50% or more parking. A variance will be required. We're all thinking the same thing.
We'll move on to petition 20-39.
I'll make a motion. I move that we approve the variance sought by Brian and Amy Horner, petitioner in BZA petition number 20-39 to allow less than 60% glazing on the street-facing facade for a reduction in the required off-street parking ratio requirement in the CBP district and CPOD district. This petition has satisfied the requirements for variance under state law for the following reasons. One, the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community for the reasons stated in the petitioner's proposed findings of fact. Two, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner for reasons stated in the petitioner's proposed findings of fact. And three, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property for the reasons stated in the petitioner's proposed findings of fact.
Question?
I'll
And-
strike that.
In the first paragraph, it doesn't
Yes.
read, the facade.
That's a cut and paste.
We're dealing.
I will strike that. I will take out the second, or the 4A reduction in the required off-street parking ratio.
Thank you.
It should just say to allow less than 60% glazing on the street-facing facades requirement.
Thank you.
So that should be
Yeah, when he read it, I'm like,
off-street
did that
parking?
really say that?
Okay.
Second?
Do I have a second?
Okay, I second.
There were no conditions, correct? Right, okay. Do I have a second? Thank you, Gary. At this time, Gary, would you please?
Roll call vote, Dr. Swords?
Aye.
Mr. Tussey?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
I vote aye, motion carries 5-0.
Is there for the decision of this body that this very move on to 20?
Guess you guys are kind of waiting for me to chime in, aren't you? I move that we approve the variance sought by Brian and Amy Horner, petitioner and, excuse me, in BZA petition number 20-40 to allow relief from large building elevations to be divided into smaller planes for front elevations in the CPT district and CPOD district. This petition has, excuse me, satisfied requirements for variances under the state law for the following reasons. The approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community for the reasons stated in petitioner's proposed finding of fact, and the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner, and the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in a practical difficulty in the use of the property for the reasons stated in the petitioner's proposed finding of fact. I have no stipulations or amendments.
Have a second?
Second.
If you would, please, Gary.
Roll call vote, Dr. Swords?
Aye.
Mr. Tussey?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson? Mr. Sheets?
Aye.
I vote aye, motion carries 5-0.
Is there for the decision of this body that this very?
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
gentlemen. Thank you very much.
See you, Ray.
Yes.
Gary, on this deck you're building.
Yeah.
Are you putting, using, the 5/4 deck board wood? Tree? You,
My wife wants me to go with that track stuff, and says, "Well, give me some money."